You're very welcome along to the Matchbook Football Podcast. It's game week 3 of the Premier League and the last one before the international break. So just when the season seems to be going, they stop it for about 2 weeks as we all gather our thoughts. But there's plenty of stuff happening this week, including the end of the transfer deadline day as well. But we will be headlining this week's show with obviously the big one at Anfield, Liverpool versus Arsenal. Quick couple of mentions at the start of this podcast. As ever, if you can take 2 seconds to hit that like button, subscribe, or follow completely for free wherever you're watching or listening. Insights.matchbook.com, full bet recap for all the podcasts there. So we're the only podcast that does that in detail. So you have that on insights.matchbook.com. And if you haven't signed up yet for Matchbook, what are you waiting for? You have that new bonus code POD50, new given it's the only code that can give you £50 worth in free bets on Matchbook. That's POD50, exclusive now to podcast listeners. And this is the last week that this offer will be available for new customers as well. Enter the bonus code Champions, bet £20 on the Premier League outright and get a £3 free bet every time your team wins a game. Full T's and C's and information on all these promotions are available on matchbook.com. So yeah, let's kick off, lads, and get straight into it. We'll start with Liverpool versus Arsenal. Adrian dying to get in there, so I might have to give this one to kick off. Mark, to Adrian, if that's okay with you, mate. But quick look at the 90-minute prices. Liverpool 2.24 favourites. That's to be expected. Arsenal 3.5 and the draw 3.6. Adrian, so before looking at this game, are these prices, before you looked at them, were they about right where you were thinking they would be, or is any team shorter or bigger than you thought?
No, I think it's fair. I do think it's fair. Liverpool are at home; they're the champions. Arsenal. It's been a long time since Arsenal won at Anfield. That said, I think Arsenal have a good recent record against Liverpool. Liverpool are winless in their last 6 Premier League games against Arsenal. Loads of draws in there. So my instant feeling is that the draw is an absolute player in the game. Look, yes, it's hard to tell. It's very early days, isn't it? But Liverpool's attack is fantastic, but without the ball, they look vulnerable. Arsenal didn't play well at all at Old Trafford, yet they roll over Leeds with comparative ease, don't they? So it's hard to know where Arsenal are at, and I think we've got a clearer idea of where Liverpool are, and Arsenal were sure to target those weaknesses. I think they're set up this season, Arsenal, to be a little bit better on the break. Signed Eza, who I think will almost certainly make his debut at Anfield. We know he's dynamite on the break. Gyökeres will certainly look to run off the shoulder of Konate, who's had a stinker, I think it's fair to say, across the first 2 matches. He's been awful. So Gyökeres against Konate, I do like the look of that from an Arsenal perspective. But then I flip it around and I see a Ekitike playing ever so well. You see Gakpo and Ekitike working very well together. Mo Salah there. Wirtz is about to catch fire, I'm sure of that. And you think, well, if they can create chances, which they're almost certain to, they're going to be a lot more lethal than Manchester United were on the opening day. So you can absolutely see Liverpool causing, albeit a really great defence, problems. So yeah, I think both attacks can hurt one another. I don't know how this is going to go. If truth be told, I'm not going to hang my hat on either team. I'm quietly confident that Arsenal can go there and maybe get an amazing result, but it wouldn't shock me if Liverpool rolled Arsenal over because of their firepower and strength going forward. So I'm leaving this alone. I'm absolutely leaving the outcome alone. Although I do like the draw, and I do feel that the unders is more likely, even though this fixture produces more goals than any other. We know that down the years. I think there's a stat, isn't there? I've got it on my notes here. I think, where is it? Yeah, 78 goals in the last 20 games between Liverpool and Arsenal, which is crazy, isn't it? For a high-profile fixture like this. So
wow.
I don't see it being a goal fest because of the timing of the fixture, because I don't think either team will want to lose. I think there's going to be a lot of respect shown as well from both teams, maybe from both managers as well. So I'm definitely going to go with under 4.5 goals, but that on its own won't cut it. But if you can combine it with both teams to score, it comes in at a very palatable 2.05. And I don't think there's anyone watching this show or listening to this show that that would potentially argue against both teams scoring in this game, for the reasons outlined, because of the quality, because of the history of the fixture. So, both teams are scoring under 4.5 goals is absolutely where I'm looking at. Obviously, it gets a lot of score lines on board. Certainly, the 2-score draws, 1 or 2-2, but obviously 2-1 either way as well. Even the 3-1. So it's going to be a great game, I'm sure of that, but also potentially more tense than some of the previous meetings. That's my gut instinct anyway.
Okay, set up well there from Adrian. He's going with both teams to score and under 4.5 goals, 2-0-5. And Mark, when analysing this, I mean, it is rare in some ways that the third game of the season we're getting the 2 title favourites. I mean, City are out to 5-1, 6.0 on Matchbook. This is, as the market sees it, the 2 best teams in the Premier League.
Yeah, I don't like it, this game sort of taking place so early, especially before the transfer window is shut. I'd normally like it to sort of be, I don't know, match day 10, match day 11. We've got a proper feel for it. And there's, I think being so early in the season probably does bring in the draw into perspective even more. More on that later in the show, because like Adrian, I do really like the look of the stalemate here as well. Just on the outrights, actually, it's quite funny to see them flip-flop really after just 2 match days. Arsenal have gone into outright favouritism, Liverpool out to second favourites, only slightly, but if you look at the fixture so far, yes, Liverpool have underwhelmed defensively, but they've looked pretty mean going forward, and they've had the arguably, well, I wouldn't even say arguably, they have had the toughest 2 fixtures and they've come through with 6 points, so that's a strange one to keep an eye on. But in terms of this match, Liverpool will be absolutely buoyant after coming through the Bear Pit on Monday night at St James's. We expected it to be a really tough game for them, but the second successive match now, they've coughed off a 2-goal lead, this time against 10 men, then having to sort of pull out of the bag in the last minute with a 16-year-old goal scorer. They'll be on cloud 9 this week, and their squad will look better and more healthier for Sunday too. No Frimpong, Bradley and Gomez weren't fit enough to start. Szoboszlai having to play at right back. No McAllister either. Well, we're expecting, Bradley will be fit enough to start. Gomez should be closer to that as well. McAllister will be back. So, they'll be stronger. Gravenberch obviously came back into the team on Monday too. But yeah, Konate has massively struggled. Whether he'll keep his place here or not, we'll have to wait and see. But going forward, they have been pretty electric at times. And Ekitike has slotted in superbly into that central role. So, will they tone it down against Arsenal? Possibly. But I think Liverpool will see this as an opportunity with Arsenal missing Saka. Odegaard looks like he's probably going to miss out. Havertz, Ben White also. Timber can come in. That's not a massive downgrade. And then across the wide flanks, Martinelli, Trossard, Madueke, Eze. You guys might know better than I. Will he take over from Odegaard in the midfield 3 potentially?
On the left, I'm leaning towards Adrian.
Yeah, look, it depends on the shoulder injury. I don't think it's too serious. I'd be surprised actually if Odegaard does miss it. We know that Saka's out. I think Madueke plays on the right in his place. If Odegaard plays, I think Eze starts on the left. If Odegaard misses out, I think there is a chance that Eze comes into the 10 slot and maybe Martinelli will come in on the left. Very hard-working player that will get up and back. And of course, you do need to protect against Mo Salah because, even though other players are catching the headlines, Salah has an amazing record of late, of course, but also against Arsenal. He's scored, I think, 11 goals against the Gunners. So, yeah, that for me is going to be a really give us a big clue over Arsenal's approach here in terms of team selection. Also at left back, the left back's decision is going to be big because Calafiori has had a great start to the season, but he's very more buccaneering in style, and he left a lot of gaps for Mbeumo at Old Trafford. Now you do that to Salah at Anfield, and you're potentially in a bit of bother. So will he play and be more restrained? Will they go with Miles Lewis-Skelly as well? I think Timber's nailed on to play at right back. So I think that back 4 and the 2 in midfield, Rice and Zubimendi, will be a little bit more pragmatic in their positioning than usual. I think you have to in this fixture and basically let the front 4 go and win you the game. But of course, it's a blow for Arsenal that Saka's not there.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. And I think if you're Mikel Arteta, match day 3 away at Liverpool, your big title rivals, you don't want to lose this game. So I think you boys would take a draw every day of the week, really, at Anfield, especially without Saka. And that you're unbeaten in 22 now against the traditional Big Six. Just lost twice in the last 10 trips to top 6 finishers as well over the past 2 campaigns. So I don't oppose Arsenal lightly here. They don't lose many games too often, but I just feel like I would want Liverpool on side because their Anfield record is obviously outstanding. I do like Adrian's selection here on both teams to score an under 4.5 goals. I've gone Liverpool double chance and both teams to score. Liverpool unbeaten Anfield. Sorry, I've lost just 3 home games at Anfield since 22-23 in the Premier League, which is an astonishingly good record. They've scored in 54 of those 58 games. But if you look at both teams to score, it has landed in 12 of the last 15 meetings between the two, 10 of the last 12 at Anfield as well. And I think Arsenal and Arteta should be encouraged by what they've seen Bournemouth and Newcastle do against Liverpool. They can cause them problems. There is a weakness there. But yeah, kind of echoing a lot of what Adrian says, really. I think both teams can and will score. I don't see it escalating. And ultimately, I would think both teams would be relatively happy with a point apiece here. Arsenal more so than Liverpool. But Liverpool double chance and both teams to score 2.05. So the same price. You just back in Liverpool to avoid defeat and both teams to score.
Okay, and this will be our £10 money back bet builder special, which we're 1 out of 2 so far this season. Incidentally, all the P&L for the guys this season is being tweeted at Team Matchbook as well. But this £10 podcast money back is a free bet. If it loses, Liverpool double chance, both teams to score and under 4.5 goals. That comes in at 263 using the Matchbook bet builder. Full T's and C's and that on insights.matchbook.com. and matchbook.com as well. A couple of comments there saying, Adrian, you didn't get in your Arsenal double chance, so Mark got there first with Liverpool. So you're going to have to be a reluctant cheering on a 1-1 maybe or a 2-2 maybe.
Oh, I know who I'll be cheering for. Don't worry about that.
Let's move on to...
It's a good game. It's a good game. But
Yeah.
I echo Mark's thoughts. It's a pity it comes so early. But look, from an Arsenal perspective, very quickly, I do think it's maybe better for Arsenal to have this game now before Liverpool have really found their groove. So let's see how it pans out.
No, still very much looking forward to it, of course. One game, frustratingly, not on TV here, Spurs versus Bournemouth, but the guys really did want to talk about it. Fascinating game here. Spurs 177, Bournemouth 4.7. The draw available at 4.3. Mark, might start with you. You can't not be impressed with Thomas Frank in terms of the 2 performances, 2 completely different games. Home to Burnley, managed to get the goals, and then against Manchester City, a very solid defensive performance and took their chances. And obviously that's not including the impressive Super Cup performance as well.
Yeah, the early signs have been very encouraging. I was dubious about Thomas Frank's appointment, and I still think there is a question mark over it. We're only match day 2 and there's a long season to go. Spurs are back in the Champions League, so we'll have to wait and see how their campaign goes. But I'm always just a little bit nervous when a club appoints a coach from Brighton or Brentford. But there's plenty of encouragement so far. I did feel there was asterisks behind their performances against PSG and even Burnley, actually. It wasn't really a 3-0 between the first and second goals. They gave up quite a lot of opportunity for Burnley, but couldn't fail to be impressed by what they did against Man City last week. And that midfield, João Palhinha just looks like a terrific signing. We know all about him from his Fulham days, but to have him alongside Rodrigo Bentancur and allowing Papsar to sort of bomb a little bit further forward, really press, that's a formidable midfield when they're all at it, as they were at the Etihad. Real energy, real physicality, discipline. They really hounded Man City all afternoon, pressed them high and put them under huge pressure. And Frank has already shown his adaptability. Something Ange didn't do. He's already shown his ability to spot weaknesses in the opposition, which he did so well, doing so at Brentford. And I thought Spurs really nullified City, actually outshot them at the Etihad as well, which is going some. So they'll be full of confidence coming into this match. And I just don't expect them to have an easy ride though against Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth caused Thomas Frank's Brentford team loads of problems last season. If you look at the matches between the two, Brentford actually won both games 3-2 and 2-1, but it didn't tell the full story. If you look at the aggregate XG across the 2 games, 428 to 231 in Bournemouth's favour, 335 to 097 when you view the open play XG in Bournemouth's favour. They had 32 shots against Brentford, 24 inside the penalty area. So I wonder whether Iraola has actually spotted a weakness in Thomas Frank and his system. Is that transferable here to this matchup? I don't know really, but we do know that Bournemouth definitely are not easy meat on their travels. Lost just 5 times outside of the Vitality last season. They were ranked 4th on away expected points, and they showed on match day 1 at Liverpool what a menace that can be on the counter-attack, and that was doing so without basically 4 of the last season's back 5. So they're bedding in a whole new defence. Last week wasn't quite as impressive, but they still managed to get the job done against Wolves, but played against 10 men for 40 minutes. So Amin Adli was showed a great cameo off the bench. He'll be another great signing for them. Good pickup at a decent price. Defence, though, is still very much a work in progress with new faces fitting in. So, I think this game is going to be really, really good and really watchable. Shame it's on at 3 o'clock on a Saturday, but I'm expecting goals. 15 of Bournemouth's 19 away last season went overs, as did their opener this time around. 16 of the 20 since the start of last season away have seen both teams scoring. And despite starting with back-to-back clean sheets under Thomas Frank, Spurs have given up 2.5 expected goals and 4 big chances in those first 2 fixtures. So perhaps they're due to concede here. I've been impressed with what they've done going forward. I have no sort of qualms about that. So, I do think both teams can get on the score sheet here. And the prices on the exchange, Matchbook Exchange, are actually quite attractive for goals. You're looking at 165 for both teams to score, similar for overs. Can't combine the two, though, so we have to go into the bet builder to engineer something here. And I quite like the look of both teams to score and both teams to be carded. 183. There's always a lot of bite about Bournemouth, that midfield in particular, notorious card collectors. And if you look at the Spurs team too, they're not exactly shy of bastards either. So Simon Hooper is the referee. He's averaging about 50 booking points in the league since the start of last season. I don't think it'll be too hard to get a card up for each team. So it's just a way of sort of manoeuvring us from a sort of unpalatable price into sort of price range here by backing both teams to score. Just include both carded. So 183 on that particular play.
Okay, nice boost. And you saw it land in the Newcastle game. I think you put it up there. And incidentally, Simon Hooper was reffing that game as well. Adrian, I've mentioned how impressed Tottenham have been this season, but yet Bournemouth, on the other hand, the same. And would have been your best bet, only marginally missed out last week by you selecting Arsenal. So I take it from that you really fancy Bournemouth to get a result here.
Yeah, I do like Bournemouth. I think that they played ever so well against Liverpool. Obviously, it was less of an exciting game against Wolves, but still deserved to win, and they got that win. But yeah, this is more akin to the Anfield test, isn't it? In terms of going to a big club away from home and looking to hurt them on the counter attack. And I don't think there are many teams that are better than Bournemouth at this. They're really good at pressing. We know that they'll press you. They'll turn the ball over in good areas, and they'll strike hard and fast. I think they'll be hoping that Justin Kluivert's fit enough to start. I think they've missed him a little bit, his quality. And remember, they had some great away performances last season. Absolutely superb. Great at Arsenal. Newcastle was unforgettable. And the Spurs game, they were 2-0 up at Spurs last season, I think in March, and ended up drawing the game 2-2. But they've definitely got the players that can hurt Tottenham. I like what I've seen from Spurs, who couldn't. Obviously, it's a brilliant result at Manchester City, and fair play to them for going there with such a sort of proactive approach. It really paid off. But I'm not ready to go all in on Thomas Frank's Spurs just yet. Just not. This is still a team that struggled for consistency last season. I do like the style change. I think it's really sensible, and I think his adaptable approach is going to make them much harder to beat. They're so much better without the ball than they were before. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they can outscore Bournemouth here. That's my honest opinion. Obviously, both teams to score feels like a really good play. But Bournemouth are good enough to cause any team problems. I think they both created 5 big chances this season. Bournemouth have got a good recent record in London. If you care about things like that, it's not been a problem for them. And their recent record against Tottenham isn't bad. I think of the last 6, they've won 2, drawn 1, and lost 3. So been competitive against Spurs. I'm liking the form, obviously, of Johnson and Richarlison and Kudus, and up against what is still a new back four. Remember that you would expect them to cause Bournemouth issues, but they're a little bit further down the road, that unit now, and maybe they'll be better than they were at Anfield. There are signs that they can gel and they'll be okay. So yeah, the way I'm looking at this is that I don't think Bournemouth will lose. I don't think Spurs will go 3 for 3 at the start of this season. I think this is a trappy game for them, and that Bournemouth absolutely can cause them problems. So I'm just going to go Bournemouth or the draw. So Bournemouth double chance, no goals involved. You can obviously add it if you wanted to. But we're just back in Spurs not to win here, and it's 2.22. And I think for a Bournemouth side that picked up a lot of good results away from home last year, coached by a manager that was overlooked for this job, who has caused Thomas Frank problems, albeit not getting the results, but as Mark said, has caused them problems before. I'm backing Iraola to maybe get one over on Spurs here. So yeah, 2.22 is the price on that.
Statement win for Iraola, perhaps. And yeah, if you back that on the Asian handicap, you get a slightly bigger price as well, Adrian. So that's plus half a goal Bournemouth, 2.24. We'll lock that in as the play there. And Mark's going back in goals and cards. Leeds versus Newcastle here, old school Premier League game here, 5:30 Saturday. Leeds 3.6, Newcastle 218 favs, and the draw 365. I mean, Adrian, we got to probably start at Monday Night Football and that incredible performance with 10 men from Newcastle, arguably very good as well, prior to conceding and getting a man sent off too. Going away to Leeds United side here, who started the season fantastically at home at Ellen Road, but obviously were ripped apart by Arsenal ultimately. There's a lot of question marks I still feel going into this game. We don't quite know where these two teams are.
Yeah, definitely. It's the same with all of them at the moment, isn't it? Yeah, it's tough, but you've got to look at Newcastle, right, this season. They've gone to Villa. That's a really hard place to go, and they've entertained Liverpool. And they haven't faced very many shots at all. I think I'm right in saying they've faced 8 shots across those 2 games, 8 or 9. It's unbelievable. You know, they've protected their own box pretty well. And I know that obviously they've conceded 3 against Liverpool, but you know, that's not really a reflection, I think, of how good they've been without the ball. So, yeah, I think they can go to Ellen Road with confidence to take. But, of course, they're shorn, aren't they? Goodness me. Shares out. So, Malik Toure will probably come in for his debut at centre-half. Tonali and Joe Linton are out. So, what happens there? I think probably Lewis Miley comes in, Joe Willock. And then they've lost Anthony Gordon to suspension. So, what do? Do they go, well, I don't know, an Elanga or Barnes up front and bring in Ramsey? Or do they go Will Asula up front and keep those 2 wingers in place? That's probably what I would do. So it's going to be a very new look Newcastle that goes into this game. And I can see people using that as a reason to oppose them. And I would understand that. But they are playing a newly promoted side, albeit Ellen Road isn't easy. But I wasn't impressed with Leeds at Emirates Stadium in particular. Newcastle have a good record against newly promoted teams. They've won their last 8 in a row against teams that have come up. I just don't know if Leeds have got enough punch in attack at this level right now. Like with Peru, Calvert-Lewin, I mean, we don't know what he's going to be like. Okafor, again, unproven in the Premier League. So I don't see Leeds scoring more than 1 goal in the game. And I can see Newcastle causing Leeds defence problems. We saw how easily Gyökeres scored that goal. That was pretty flimsy defending. And the big thing that really stood out to me at Emirates Stadium was how bad they are at defending corners. Jeez. Like, obviously Arsenal scored from corners, but they just had zonals. They'd not one player man-marked. And they just gave free runs to everybody. And I'm thinking of Dan Burn here. I mean, surely they're going to have a plan, but they didn't for Arsenal. So why would they for Newcastle? I think Newcastle would probably score from a set piece. Is how I'm looking at this, and I don't think that they'll concede more than 1. So yeah, I think Newcastle can get a result even with the players missing. They've got the Premier League pedigree. They've got the class. They've had 2 really hard games to start with. This will be easier. But I don't think it's gonna get out of hand in terms of goals. You know, I've said about Leeds, a bit like up front. Newcastle, obviously no Gordon, no Isak. Yeah, they're not going to be as potent potentially as they might otherwise have been. So yeah, I'm going to go with under 3.5 goals. I think it'll be one of those muscular, physical games. Under 3.5, but Newcastle double chance with that, and that comes in at 1.96. So yeah, we don't even need Newcastle to win the game for us to pick up that money. So yeah, that's my selection here.
Yeah, that's your alternative to Newcastle winning, which is 2-1-8, so not too much bigger. So if you want that bit of security. And Mark, I thought that was a compelling enough case from Adrian on Leeds' vulnerabilities versus Newcastle potentially taking advantage of them. Yet you strongly disagree, I would say, on giving your selection here.
Strongly. I wouldn't say strongly, no. I've chosen the other side. I'm going Leeds plus half a goal because I do think the absentees are significant, and I do think the way in which they lost on Monday night, the energy they put in, they showed incredible desire, application, work rate, competed superbly, I thought, despite the circumstances. So to lose it so late will have really hurt them, not just physically, but mentally too. They'll be reeling. They want to put it right. But yeah, the body count from that match is significant. Gordon suspended. No striker outside of Asula. He's never started a Premier League game for Newcastle. He may well have to do here. Cher, I think, is their best defender. Joelinton, Tonali, two of that. Awesome midfield three, absent. And obviously Isak, and their record without Isak is now 7 games, 0 wins and 4 goals scored, compared to an average of 2 goals per game when he starts in the 31 games since the start of last season, and a 61% win ratio. Like, he is obviously enormous, and it's probably not being covered enough on this show this season, how his absence is absolutely crucial to Newcastle. So yeah, Osula might start, Alanga, Barnes or Jacob Murphy might be deployed as a makeshift striker. Tiao can come in, obviously a decent enough defender. Lewis Miley an option, but there's absolutely no doubt that this 11 this weekend will be much, much weaker than Monday night. And for that reason, I think they are opposable. The market has moved against Newcastle because of it. They were odds on for this match before they played Liverpool. They're out to 210, 215 now, which is understandable. Adrift in the team news. But still quite, I thought, a short enough price for against the Leeds team, who I do think are probably going to be the best of the promoted bunch. And I'd give a decent whack at staying up, actually. I put them, I think, 15th or 16th in my 1 to 20. So they were well beaten at Arsenal. Never looked like getting anything out of that game. But going to the Emirates on match day 2, it's never going to be an easy prospect. And when you concede from a set piece relatively early doors, it's going to be a tough afternoon. But they will be judged, and they'll probably be defined on their Ellen Road record this season, which started very well. I was very impressed with them, albeit Everton had a mishmash side out for match day 1. But they impressed me a lot, actually. They limited Everton to just 14 touches in the box, 1 shot on target. That was the fewest allowed by any side in the opening round of the Premier League. And I think if they can put in a similarly energetic display, I think they've got a good chance of getting something out of this game. They surely will look at this and go, well, we probably won't get a better opportunity to get something out of a match against Newcastle all season, considering the absentees. And whilst the Magpies are still able to field a strong enough 11, they are noticeably weaker. So this is an evening kickoff on Saturday, so you should get a very, very good atmosphere. And perhaps Newcastle will get a bit of their own medicine from the stands. One thing they're very good at giving out at St James's Park is that white hot atmosphere. Well, Ellen Road will be that way in Leeds' favour this weekend. So yeah, I'm going to give them a chance to getting a result here. So I'll back them with a half goal start at 181.
Okay, the two lads strongly disagreeing with each other. So whichever way.
It's clickbait.
Whichever it's clickbait. Yeah, that's all, mate. We're getting better at that match, but there's a balance as always. We let the content generally do the talking, but there's no harm in stirring things up between the two guys in particular. Brighton versus Manchester City. This is 2:00 Sunday. We'll be live on Sky. Have a busy day on Sky across Sunday. 4 live games, including the old firm there. So it will be a day for the couch. Brighton 4.4, City 1.9. The draw currently 4.1. And Mark, might throw this back to you. You're obviously well-established, massive fan of Brighton in terms of how they've gone about the last couple of years. That was a miss word there, perhaps not intentionally throwing you under the bus there. But Man City, I watched the 12:30 game, and they had maybe 1 or 2 half chances before Spurs' goal, but I thought really poor. They didn't seem to have their press there at all, and there were worrying signs. It was a well-established fact it's the youngest side they've had since basically they've had that investment over 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's funny. There's sort of opinions and analysis kind of flip-flopping after one game to the next, really. We spoke off-air about Manchester United for being sort of lauded for their display against Arsenal on match day one, then absolutely panned as being awful on match day two, and it's the same old United. Well, City were lauded on match day one for winning away to quite a poor Wolves team, and yeah, they were really impressive, but the opposition isn't up to much. Whereas last week they were, back to the old City, really, and yeah, I wasn't overly impressed with them defensively. I thought they were a bit of a shambles at times. And yeah, this is a tricky game for them. The price on Man City does feel a little bit like a trap. I nearly got sucked into backing them there at sort of close to 1.9. They only won once away at the top half last season, and that was Chelsea on the opening day of last season. And yeah, just too often, even in the second half of last season, when they did have the best record in terms of results in the Premier League, they flattered to deceive at times too. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this game, but I don't think it's going to be easy. Last season's matches between these two were really good fun. 2-2 at the Etihad. Brighton won 2-1 at the MX. There were 13 cards issued across the two games, 8-5 to Brighton on cards. And I think something similar will be happening on Sunday, actually. I think I fancy goals and I fancy cards. And yeah, I think Brighton will be looking at that new high line installed by Man City and believing they can penetrate it. If you look at what Wolves did on match day one, they were caught offside 4 times. One of those actually resulted in a goal, but was called back for being offside. Fine margins, really. And that's the sort of flip-flop with the high line and the offside trap is when it works, it can be wonderful. But when it doesn't work, you're completely exposed. And Spurs did that with their fast forwards last week. The high press as well, spooking James Trafford, and the defence in possession just looked an accident waiting to happen at times. And yeah, I think there are concerns really about Trafford's ball playing ability in that Pep system. His decision making was a little bit questionable at times against Tottenham. I think Brighton will try and target him and City in those areas. And this is a Brighton team who do love to get forward, score goals and create chances. And they've scored in 34 of 40 games under Fabian Hurtzler. Really should have scored more than just one goal this season. They've had 23 shots, an XG of around 4, missed a penalty, of course, last week, and some really profligate finishing on show against Everton and Fulham so far. But they scored in 19 of 22 games against the top 12 last season. They really are capable. I think they will score. City kept just 1 clean sheet away at the top 12 last season, conceded twice or more in 7 of those 11 games. And they also gave up 47 big chances away from home last season, which is the 11th best in the Premier League. So I think Brighton will create chances here. I think it's whether they're clinical enough, whether they can take them and cause problems and potentially get a win at a big price here. But you don't expect City to blank again after last week. So Brighton, 3 home clean sheets last season. So I think you have to make both teams to score. The base here for a selection, I'm just going to repeat what I did earlier, really, is back both teams to score and both teams to be carded, because Darren England is the referee. He's averaged 48.18 booking points in his 22 league games since the start of last season. He's given at least 5 cards in half of those. 16 of Brighton's 19 matches at the Amex saw both sides booked. And I mentioned last season's head-to-head, plenty of cards. It was quite feisty at times. And if we look at this season, 40% of the Premier League games already have featured 5 cards or more. So, yeah, City were very much amongst the cards against Spurs last week. I think there will be again this weekend. So I'm going to choose both teams to score and both teams to be carded at 1.9 and try and not have to back either team. But yeah, I think Brighton can cause them problems.
Okay, you can back that using the Matchbook Bet Builder. Yeah, Adrian, for you, Manchester City, Mark's sort of right. I mean, there's the sample sizes are so small, but look, again, I'm probably biased because I sat down and watched that game and I wasn't impressed. And Erling Haaland was a concern, but you expect him to get bounced back into form this weekend?
Yeah, look, I'm a little bit like Mark here. I don't really want to hang my hat on either team, particularly. Brighton have been so-so to this point, like you say, wasteful in front of goal. Lots of good stuff, but lacking the finish. City, we've seen both sides of them. Really slick performance at Wolves, and yeah, an alarming one last weekend against Spurs, where you think, well, have they worked on their problems at all? Are they actually going to fix it or not? So yeah, it is hard to know. I've got a feeling for Haaland here. He has scored in 4 of his 5 appearances against Brighton, but this is his 100th Premier League appearance, and I just think that this is a guy who's got 87 in his 99 games so far. it'd just be typical, I think, for him to mark that milestone with a goal. He was brilliant at Molineux. Obviously, not so good last week. He has had 4 big chances rather, in the Premier League this season. No one's had more than that, and his XG of 2.46 is way ahead of the next individual in the ranks, which is Semenyo on 1.59 so far. So Haaland, he still gets chances. Of course, he'll probably be on pens as well, should they get one. Mark's talked about it being a feisty game. I do agree with him on that. I think Herzl is just a spiky manager, isn't he? I think he just gets his teams really, really at it. I'm going to pair Haaland to score anytime with under 4.5 goals, because I don't see it being like a 3-3, 4-1 either way or anything like that. So, for me, that feels relatively safe. And at one point, I mean, Mark made a lot of numbers there about City and how bad they are at defending, and you can't argue with the numbers. But away from home, so since they got spanked by Arsenal 5-1 in February, I think it was, they've conceded 1 goal in 7 away Premier League games. So 6 clean sheets of their last 7 in the Premier League. That's obviously the back end of last season and the game at Wolves. So in a way, they've tightened up. And Brighton, for me, aren't as gung-ho under Herzler as they were before with De Zerbi. They're not quite as much fun. For me, they're a bit more patient now. A lot of passes in the middle, at the back, not committing quite as many men forward as they used to. I think he's trying to settle down a little bit, Herzler, because they kept getting picked off on the break. So he's modified his tactics a little bit. So, yeah, I don't see it being a really high-scoring game, but I can see Haaland scoring. So, yeah, Haaland and under 4.5 goals in the game, 2.3. Incidentally, Haaland is way shorter to score in this game than City are to win, which maybe tells a story. So, yeah, that's where we're going with this one.
Interesting, comparison there. So, yeah, the guys staying away from the results by and large there, but both different selections there, and all those are summarized on insights.matchbook.com. We've got 2 selections from you, Mark, in our Any Other Bets, starting with Barcelona, who went 2-0 down away to Levante and managed to dig out a result. La Liga's been good fun so far this season.
Yeah, they're 2 from 2. They were given a really big helping hand against Mallorca on match day 1, actually. 2 red cards and a very, very controversial second goal, which took the game beyond Mallorca and incensed their players, which ended up with the first of 2 red cards. But last week they were away at Levante, newly promoted Levante, and had to come from 2-0 down, he said, to win that game 3-2. And one of the big takeaways yet again was Hansi Flick's high line. We saw Barcelona be the offside kings, not just in Spain, but also across Europe last season. And when it works, which is probably 95% of the time, it's incredibly effective. But it's also their Achilles heel when it falls down, as was defending set pieces. And Levante really exploited those weaknesses last week. And I think Rayo Vallecano could do similar against Barca this weekend, because in the summer, Barcelona sold Inigo Martinez, or they didn't sell him, they let him go for free to Saudi Arabia, which was very peculiar, not getting a fee for arguably your key defender. Inigo basically led the Barcelona offside trap last season. He was the organizer, he was the experienced head, and without him so far, that offside trap hasn't been as effective as we saw last week. So with the Camp Nou still not ready, Barca are back on the road. This is their 3rd successive away La Liga game. I'm just not convinced that they're going to keep Rayo out here. They did concede in 14 of 21 away league games under Flick, although they only lost twice in that same sample. So I think the combination of Barca double chance and both teams to score here at 180 is a bet I'm willing to propose. Obviously, we don't need to spend time talking about Barcelona's attack. It's full of superstars. They're almost a guarantee of goals. But defensively, I do think there are areas of concern. And Rayo do tend to bring the noise when they host the big boys at Vallecas. Last season, they averaged 1 expected goal at home to the top 6. They had 4 shots on target or more in all of those matches and created 8 big chances. They held Real Madrid 3-3 at Vallecas. They held Atletico 1-1 at Vallecas. They lost 2-1 to Barca and 2-1 to Athletic. So they are no easy meat at home. And last term, 4 of Barca's 6 away clean sheets came at teams in 14th and below. Rayo are involved in European action on Thursday night in a qualifying clash against a Belarusian outfit. They are playing in Madrid, though, with a 1-goal advantage. So they should be capable of seeing that tie out with a bit of room to spare, really, before I expect them to put everything into this on Sunday night and give Barca a really good game. So, yeah, 180 on Barca, double chance on both teams to score.
Okay, and your second selection comes in the international break, Mark. So this is next Thursday for listeners who are listening ahead. So,
yeah, I'm cheating a little bit here. We won't be recording a podcast next week due to the break. So there is a standout bet, though.
Yeah, you're giving us plenty of content for it, so much appreciated, mate.
Yeah, I mean, this is a bet that just has to be shared, really. It's taking place next Thursday night from South America's World Cup qualifiers. It's Colombia to win and both teams to score no when they host Bolivia. It's trading at 183. There's only 4 rounds left of South American World Cup qualifying. Colombia occupy the final qualification spot in 6th. 7th goes into a playoff. Colombia have a 4-point cushion over 7th. They haven't been massively impressive in this qualifying campaign, winning just 5 of 16 games. But this is a big one. Bolivia are 8th, 5 points off Colombia, but just 1 point off Venezuela, who occupy the playoff place. And this is their best World Cup qualifying campaign in years, probably 30 odd years actually for Bolivia since they qualified in 94. So as always, they've built their campaign upon a rock solid home record. They play at punishing altitude. La Paz is the highest capital city in the world, but they've made it even more extreme this time around by moving matches to an even higher elevation in the country. Understandably, away teams have really struggled. Bolivia have taken 11 points from their 5 home games. Away from home, they've been as awful as ever, although they did start the campaign with a first away win, competitive away win in 31 years when they beat a really, really poor Chile team. But since then, it's kind of standard service. They've followed it up by losing 6-0 to Argentina, 4-0 to Ecuador, 3-1 to Peru, and 2-0 in Venezuela. So if Peru and Venezuela can comfortably beat Bolivia at home, there's no reason why Colombia can't. The last 3 head-to-head in Colombia, 3-0, 1-0, 5-0 wins for Colombia, who have posted 4 wins from 8 at home. They've just drawn away at Argentina, and under their current head coach, Nestor Lorenzo, they did have a 28-game unbeaten run, which ended last year. They beat Germany, beat Brazil, Uruguay, and Spain. They got to a Copa America final too. So whilst they've underwhelmed at times during qualification, the quality is definitely there, and they should be winning without conceding. So 183, Colombia win and BTTS no.
Okay, that's Colombia win and BTTS now. 2 rounds of qualifying there left in South America. Adrian, you've 2 selections here in the any other bet section, starting with Millwall versus Wrexham. Now, Millwall was a winner for Mark last week, and you're expecting goals in this game at home to Wrexham, and it hasn't quite happened for them in the Championship so far this season.
No, but I'll tell you what is happening. There's a lot of goals. A lot of goals in Wrexham matches. 23 in 5 games so far, which obviously averages 4.6 a game. Every match Wrexham's been involved in has had at least 3 goals, and both teams to score has landed in all 5 of their games. This is in all competitions, of course. So, yeah, they keep scoring 2 or 3, but don't always win the games. So I think you can gather from that it's working up front. Kiefer Moore's come in, has hit the ground running. They've got Nathan Broadhead. They've got loads of strength on the bench as well in terms of goal getters. And yeah, even though they're not the prettiest team, they're very effective, and they put the ball into the box and ask questions. And so far in the Championship, they've plundered plenty, but at the back they don't appear to be quite good enough. Goalkeeper struggled. I think the back 5 as well has not been brilliant. So you would expect going to Millwall that they've got next to no chance of keeping a clean sheet. Millwall are flying. Got 2 big strikers themselves, Coburn and Ivanovic, who are doing really well. Just a well-organised team. Millwall been scoring goals themselves. Now, Millwall games ordinarily don't feature loads of goals at the New Den as well. They like to keep things quite tight, but the way Wrexham are going, just wherever they play, home or away, it ends up seeing both teams score and plenty of action at inside both boxes. So I'm going with that. It's a really backable price here, considering Wrexham's record so far this season that I've just outlined. It's 1.91 to get both teams to score, which I think is a pretty good price when you consider they've not even been involved in a match that's featured less than 3 goals yet, Wrexham.
Okay, that's both teams to score in that one. And your second selection, Adrian, this was Mark's League 2 selection on the Anti-Post outright preview. Chesterfield, who have got off to a solid start, 4 wins out of 5, and expect them to do the business at home to Crawley.
Yeah, I looked at this and I thought, well, it looks home banker, it really does, and it's like, well, how can we find a way in? And funnily enough, it's not that hard to find a way in that's at a backable price. I'm just going to go Chesterfield to beat Crawley and under 4.5 goals. As you said, Chesterfield have won 4 out of 5. They've won both their home games. 4 of their 5 games have gone under 4.5 goals. The one that didn't was the one they lost, which is a bit of an outlier, really. Lost 4-1 at Gillingham, which I don't think anyone would have seen. But I do think that would have been a bit of a wake-up call for them, particularly defensively. And yeah, for me, they're in a different league, really, to Crawley. Even though they're in the same division, they're in a different league in terms of quality. They're absolutely going to be in the mix, Chesterfield, for promotion. And Crawley, I think if Crawley get towards mid-table, they've done very, very well. Only got 1 point so far. They've lost 4 games. They've scored twice in those 5 games as well. So it's really not clicking for them going forward. They've not let in more than 3 goals in the game yet, though. So, they're not getting battered. And every match has been under 4.5 goals for Crawley. So, yeah, I feel like this is quite a strong selection here. Chesterfield to win and under 4.5 goals against struggling Crawley.
Okay. Any other bets
1.88.
Yeah, any other bets went 5 out of 5 there last week, so pay particular attention. Thought the long shots were a tad unlucky last week. Mark, you mentioned this briefly at Liverpool versus Arsenal, both draw and both teams to score as your way in for a long shot this week in the big game.
Yeah, I thought St Mirren were going to do the business last week. I thought the draw was going to land on match day 1 at Old Trafford. So yeah, I'm going back in the draw again in an Arsenal away game, a big Arsenal away game. We talked earlier about the scheduling. I think that's in our favour here. Neither team will want to lose this match, considering how early we are in the season. But yeah, Arsenal just aren't easy to beat. It's 9 league defeats in 78 now, and yeah, I'm just going to sort of back up those opinions on the draw, because 4 of the last 5 against Liverpool have ended all square, including each of the last 3 at Anfield. 5 of the last 11 at Anfield, going further back, have been drawn, which is a very good strike rate if you do like your draws. Arsenal drew 8 away games last season in the Premier League, including all 3 trips to the top 4. So, as well as 5 of their 7 trips to the top 8. So they've got previous for this. And yeah, as I said earlier, they're unbeaten now in 22 games against the traditional Big Six, going back to April 2023. But 9 of those matches ended all square. And if you go away from home, they've drawn 8 of their last 12 trips to the traditional Big Six. And I think it's worth sort of reiterating the price trend as well. It didn't land against Man United, but interestingly too, Arsenal went off odds on away at Man United. So perhaps it wasn't befitting the trend. But when Arsenal have been evens or bigger away from home, the last 10 times they have been, 7 of those 10 games have ended in draws, 6 of them score draws. So yeah, the draw is what, 380? We can boost it to 4.6 by backing both teams to score on top of the draw. Is it really going to be 0-0 when Liverpool are involved? Difficult to believe, really. So if it is going to be a draw, 1-1, 2-2 looks the most likely. So we've got that on side at 4.6.
Okay, interesting little boost there from the regular draw. You can back on the match with Betting Exchange. Now, Adrian, just a quick reminder to the championship table before you give us this long shot. So Middlesbrough, 3 wins, 0 defeats, 1 goal conceded. Sheffield United, 3 games, 3 defeats, 1 goal scored. So Middlesbrough at home, emphasising the home bit, to Sheffield United. What is your selection this week in this game?
Yeah, I'm back in the blades here. Now, look, if you're going to go for a long shot,
yeah,
you've got to go against the grain, haven't you? Almost always. Not necessarily. Mark's found a way
agreed.
in there of one that's, you wouldn't be surprised to see that. And this, on the face of it, would be a surprise if you look at the league table. But I don't think Borough are a better team than Sheffield United. And I don't think that they're going to stay on top of the division. And I absolutely don't think that Sheffield United are going to stay at the bottom of the division. Look, it's been a nightmare start. They've got a new manager, Ruben Selles. It's been horrific. The tactics that he's gone with have not worked. And he's got a very attacking starting 11, but the balance isn't quite right. For me, too many attackers and not enough sort of defensive midfielders, really. You need at least one more in the team. So I think he'll get it right if he's given time. But this would be a good opportunity for him and the team to just get over what's been a bit of a shocking start. If you look at the XG this season, Sheffield United are 4.18 and Middlesbrough 2.85. and this is top v bottom. So it tells the story of Sheffield United being very unlucky. They should have scored a lot more goals. They've come up against some inspired goalkeeping, not least last weekend. Borough haven't created very much, but have been efficient. At home, they're not amazing. They scrambled a 1-0 win on the opening day against Swansea in one of the worst matches ever seen. They then lost in the League Cup 4-0 at home to Donny, and they haven't been back since. So it's not like they're imperious at home. Last season, it was very patchy as well in terms of Middlesbrough's form at the Riverside. So, yeah, I just think that Sheffield United can go there and potentially win this game. They've got great forwards: Tyrese Campbell, Louis Barry, Tom Cannon, Callum O'Haire, Gus Harmer. These are all players that can go and hurt any team. They're going to sign Japhet Tanganga, the former Spurs player from Millwall this week. He's an excellent centre-half in the Championship. That'll be a great pickup. They've signed Ben Godfrey on loan from Italy. They've got the players to climb the league, and maybe this is the kickstart. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Sheffield to win and under 3.5 goals, because I don't think either side's been exactly full of goals at the moment. And in Borough's last 8 home games, incidentally, going over to last season as well, all of the last 8 have been under 3.5 goals. So, yeah, I think Sheffield could click here. And if they do, it'll be a narrow win. So, yeah, 4.5 you can get on the Blades to win and under 3.5 goals.
Potential coupon buster. That is an early kickoff, as well as there are a few every weekend. They're all, I think, live on Sky Plus. Mark, maybe brief thoughts on that, because I know you're a big EFL man, and then take us to the MLS, which you smashed there in the late Sunday night football with Charlotte last week, and hoping to do similar again.
Yeah, I'm going to stay MLS. I want to target New York City in their home fixture against DC United. NYC are kind of occupying a wildcard place at the minute, just 1 point outside of the top 8 in the Eastern Conference. So there's plenty for them to play for in terms of getting into the playoffs and avoiding that wild card. Whereas DC are bottom of the East and only 2 points off the bottom of the whole of the MLS. They've been pretty wretched all season. 4 wins all season. They've won just once since early May. They've lost 8 of the last 11, 9 of 14 away, conceding an average of 214 goals away, scored just 12 on their road as well. And they've lost the XG battle in 11 of those 14 away games. And if you look at the metrics across the season, it pretty much reflects their lowly position in the East and across the MLS as a whole. So they've lost 5 of the last 6 away games, and this is going to be a tough game against a very motivated NYC team who've won 9 of 12 at home and come into this clash having won 5 of the last 7, home or away. That's despite 5 of those 7 games being away from home. So they've won away at Cincinnati, they've won away at Orlando in that sequence, 2 top 8 outfits, which kind of highlights their potential. Now they're hosting one of the worst teams in the whole of the MLS. So there's a reason why they're a reasonably short price. Like Adrian did with Chesterfield, really, I'm looking to get NYC on side, and the way to do that is to include under 4.5 goals. So we're boosting around about a 1.5, 1.55 shot to 1.9 by including under 4.5 goals. So you've got the 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, 2-1 or 3-1. 19 of NYC's 26 matches have gone under 3.5 goals. Just 2 of those went over 4.5. In New York, 9 of 12 have gone under 3.5. None of those games have gone over 4.5. And if you look at DC, only 4 of their games have featured 5 goals or more. 79% of their matches have gone under 3.5 goals. So don't imagine this game escalating into a sort of 5 or 6 goal game. NYC should be able to get the job done relatively comfortably without the game escalating. So yeah, home win and under 4.5 goals at 1.9.
Okay, looking for MLS and double there from last week as well. And finally, Adrian, Nottingham Forest versus West Ham. A lot of noise with these 2 clubs, but on the pitch, Forest doing obviously a lot better than West Ham United. And maybe the odd listener listening here might have missed Jared Bowen to the fans at the end of the game. There seems to be, it's just toxic. We've already spoken about it, but there's a lot going on at West Ham at the moment.
It's never a good idea, is it? I think, to go and try and speak to the fans immediately after a defeat when you're on a bad run. It's just never going to end well. So
because it's a weird one in England. It doesn't really happen in England, but in Germany, for example, they do it a lot and apologise. And there's conversations. In England, it's a bit more not done as often, I guess.
It's not done as often, and things do escalate, and ill-advised, I'd say. So Yeah, look, it's not good times at West Ham. I mean, is there anyone out there that fancies West Ham to go to Forest and win? I mean, surely not, based on what we've seen of them at the moment. Awful, conceding a lot of goals. The goalkeeper looks really shaky, doesn't he, Hermansen? He's got a decision to make there. Does he stick with him? Does he take him out of the firing line? A lot of fans turning on Graham Potter, so it is getting a little bit toxic. And look, they go to a Forest team that have had midweek off. They've played Wolves, and he played a lot of his main players as well in the game. He's desperate to win it. Obviously, got beat 3-2 late on against a much more depleted Wolves team, by the way. So, yeah, Forest have had their feet up. They've been planning this one, and look, I just think I still look at that central midfield, and I think Elliot Anderson is a player in his peak form, really. Morgan Gibbs-White as well. Just think they can absolutely overrun the Hammers in that area. Chris Wood likes playing against West Ham. He's got 8 Premier League goals against the Hammers. He's joint most against a single opponent. And then you look at their recent record. Forest have won the last 3 against West Ham. And West Ham haven't scored on any of the last 4 visits to the City ground. So, yeah, it's not a happy hunting ground. There's not many good recent memories for them, even when they've had better teams than they've got right now. So, yeah, I just think this is quite a tough fixture for West Ham, who are in a bit of a state. And Forest, who saw off Brentford with a degree of comfort, didn't they, on the opening day? I think they're more than capable of doing the same again. Pretty much everybody's fit, nicely rested. Yeah, I fancy them to win. So they're quite short on its own. So I just boosted it. I think you can back them on their own, on the nose. I think 1.74, something like that.
Yeah.
But if you want to back Forest to win, but just rule out the 1-0, just go over 1.5 goals, and it takes that price to 2.18. So if you think they'll win by more than 1-0, which I do, then that's the one to go for. Yeah, 2.18 is the price.
Okay, that is best bets there. Insights.matchbooks.com, full recap of all the guys' picks. And if you are watching on YouTube, if you take 2 seconds to hit that like button, we see a lot of you on the live stream, and obviously loads more afterwards watching it back. It's much appreciated and helps our content get out to a wider audience. We're already on a week break, not intentionally here, unfortunately, but we have Mark's international bet to get us to Thursday at least before Ireland-Hungary on Saturday night, which I have the misfortune of attending myself. So enjoy the week off. We'll be back to preview more Premier League, similar-ish time when we're back on Wednesday week, but enjoy the week break, and we'll chat to you then. Bye-bye.